The Hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th Century presents
Cloning It In. Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to Cloning It In, The Bad Batch. Our discussion and review of the Disney Plus series Star Wars, The Bad Batch. Before we get started, my name is Jared.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Brian.
Yeah, I like Matt. I realized right after I said it, I should have done, I'm Jared, I know Matt, and it's Brian. It's not Brian, it's Brian.
Brian.
And Matt.
The Bad Batch is back, folks. Man,
It's been a year.
it's been a long time. It's
since
been
we've
too
traveled with the Bad Batch. And, I got to tell you, last year, if you'll recall, the Bad Batch for many weeks was going head to head with Mando season 3. I mean, the episodes dropped on the same day, and many of those weeks, I think the Bad Batch was the better program.
I agree.
Agreed.
The Bad Batch that last year made The Mandalorian season 3 look like a children's cartoon. Because let's be honest.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, you look at the new season of Bad Batch, and it's almost hard to distinguish between that and live action now.
Yes, absolutely.
These graphics
And
just keep getting better and better.
I tell you, I think Bad Batch has really become one of the secret weapons of the Disney Star Wars era, along with the likes of Andor, as just really quality stuff.
I mean, it has the best parts of the Clone Wars series, and it has none of the crap. It's like all the best of Star Wars is being funneled into this great show. It's really entertaining. It's just it hasn't quit yet.
And with these 4 episodes that we're about to talk about, there was no wasted time.
Absolutely not.
It was an hour of pretty much perfection.
What I like to see is this forward motion too. Something in the Bad Batch season 2 that we complained about was filler episodes. There are episodes in Bad Batch season 2 that did not propel this story forward. And I think at least in the first 4 episodes, I'm encouraged that we haven't seen filler yet.
Well, I don't 100% disagree, but I will say that the second episode, although it was a great episode, felt like a bit of a side quest to me. And it was bookended with forward motion with a little side quest in the middle, which is fine. It's okay. But I liked the world building that it's creating and what we're finding out on the side of the main quest, what's happening. So it wasn't a wasted side quest. It actually was an interesting thing. And we could talk about it once we get to that episode.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in here. So we're basically picking up pretty much where season 2 left off. We're on the planet Wayland on Mount Tantus in the research facility, run by the creepy Dr. What's his name?
Hemlock.
I think that it's just an amazing thing. I woke up today and had a cup of coffee. What would you like to have today? Eggs?
That's a good impression, man.
I mean, he's one of those guys that, and you can imagine in these Imperial facilities, it's probably not silent. There's probably a lot going on. There's a lot of machinery and droids and people walking. You better be on your A game if he comes to talk to you, because you're going to be missing half that conversation. He's going to expect you to walk out and do stuff, and you'll be like, I am completely lost.
Why are you still standing here when I have asked you to go and do my bidding?
Please
What?
Leave now.
He needs captions.
Yeah. And I do watch the show with captions so I can see what he's saying. But so we catch up with Omega, who is who is a prisoner, although they try to pretend like she isn't. She's going about these daily tasks, following around the clone that she calls her sister, whose name escapes me. I'm not prepared. Emery.
Emery
it.
Carr.
Um, and so that we're there. We've got Lama Say, Lama Su, Lama Say,
Lama say. No,
Mama Samu Makusa,
Nala
Nala
say.
say.
Nala
Nala
Say,
say.
Mama Samu Makusa. Yes.
Yeah,
So
and the
we're
conversation between Nala say and the doctor is always dynamic. I
Wait.
think that you really need to get this done.
I don't know why you would say this. What?
Nala say, what do you think about my shoes? Are they tied?
Yes. I
Together.
told you to get Velcro,
I
but
don't like Velcro. I find it to be annoying and loud. Yeah, that's the day to day with these two.
well, we find out pretty quick that we're doing blood tests here. A lot of the clones are being their blood's being extracted. A lot of these clones are very much the worse for wear, and Crosshair is among them. And I think it's interesting that they're looking at blood, and I was confused about this until I kind of figured it out in my own head. So they're looking for degradation of M count, which we all know what M count means.
They didn't say the dirty word, which
They
is
didn't
nice.
say the dirty word, but M count was brought up before in The Mandalorian.
It sounds cool as M count.
I like M count
it.
better
than midi-chlorians. But
God
so
damn it.
the thing we have to remember about midi-chlorians is that everybody has them. It's not just Jedi. Everybody has midi-chlorians.
Mhm.
But what they are looking at, and this is what started to irritate me a little bit, because I thought, well, there's no indication that Omega is force sensitive. Well, that's not what they're looking for. And she's not force sensitive. What they're looking for is when they test her blood, when they clone it, does her midichlorian count decrease? Does the M count decrease? And in Omega's case, I mean, not to fast forward too much, it doesn't. And as soon as what's her name? Lama Su
Nala say.
Mama Samu Makusa.
Llama.
Llama. As soon as she discovers that, whoa, Omega's blood showed no degradation, the sample's instantly destroyed because she's trying to protect Omega. Now, of course, there's only one person they would be doing these experiments for, and we'll get there. But that's sort of how I came to, okay, well, at first I thought, like I said, no, Omega's not force sensitive. Why are they doing that? But I did think it was interesting, and I wasn't sure, and maybe I'm not supposed to understand this. It seems like daily they take these samples and they do this same test every day
with the same clones
and the same people
I know.
over and over again, like expecting. I mean, that's that saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result.
I wonder if they're bringing in fresh clones, though.
Oh, they could be. I mean, we're certainly not privy to that in the show, but it's a big facility.
I mean, I got a real Andor vibe in that episode. The repetitive, like the stuff going through it's a
like
lot
like the prison,
and the transferring of the teams back and forth, and the different, like, crosshairs always crossing at the same time, and so I got a little bit of an Andor vibe in the routine of it, but it's an interesting thing when you really kind of like start to unpack Omega in the greater story, is how interesting and integral Jango Fett to the Emperor and the Empire was in so many different ways through his contributions, whether it be genetic or just being himself. He was a really interesting character, and his offspring are interesting. Omega should have her show someday, like her brother.
Where she's a benevolent crime ruler. No, but that's a good point. And you got to think at this point in the timeline, um, Boba is not much older
That's right.
than Omega
In
is.
fact, we got a little bit of a Boba treat in the second episode. Not necessarily Boba, but
Yes, Daniel Logan, the person
Yeah.
who played young Boba, came back to voice one of the younger clones.
right,
Although these guys look to be, teenagers to
right.
me.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. And also that the clones, different actors were used for the voices. Like all three of those clones were not Daniel Logan.
Oh, that's right.
Another actor played the other two guys.
Well, here's what we got in the first episode, though. We learned that Nalase is obviously protecting Omega,
Mhm.
which is no surprise because she did her best to try and keep Omega away from all this to begin with. We don't know the motivations of her quote sister in this yet. We learned that data pads are the key to the world in this facility,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they are.
and she's making friends with dogs.
Yeah.
So one of her chores, one of her duties, I should say, is to feed the native watchdogs, which we find, by the way, that on the planet it's incredibly hostile. And
Yes.
once you get outside of the protected zone of the base, it's just a nightmare to exist in. As we saw. Oh, by the way, I'll point this out later on also, but I have to give the Empire specifically a lot of credit in how they build ships because these things come out of space like falling like a rock, out of control. Nobody's wearing seatbelts. Clones could be hanging on like to a pole, like you'd be in like a subway. Full on crash, and they just come out going like, "Oh man!"
Yeah, they walk away.
From outer space, these things crash onto the planet, and they walk right out. We see
Well,
this again later on too. But
this one was actually it was on a controlled flight and was hit by lightning when it crashed.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, but
But
later
no,
on,
they're all standing. It's like
Well,
a bus.
That's true.
But anyways, we find out that the planet is really hostile. So they use these guard dogs, these native kind of like alien dogs, to patrol the area and to kind of like fend off the native hostile animals. And it's Omega's job to feed them.
Yeah, along with a droid with a nasty attitude. The thing that struck me there with of course the opening scene of just the shuttle coming in, again, the animation in this show, it was like, man, this looks live action. And I love this particular model of shuttle that they're flying. It's like the assault shuttle, you
Mhm.
know. It's a lot meaner looking than the Lambda class shuttle from the original trilogy. But yeah, so these guys go down, and I thought it was funny that Hemlock's like, don't even bother sending
they're
anybody out.
dead.
Yeah,
Dead.
they're not gonna survive. They will not survive this.
They're already
Do
dead.
not
Don't
do not
bother.
waste resources. As we move along here,
Dibs on their oatmeal in the morning.
yes, the delicious oatmeal. And during this time, Omega keeps stopping by Crosshair's cell and annoying the piss out of him every day. She just
Yeah.
comes there and she's talking to him. And I kind of like her naivete, because she still thinks of Crosshair even though he's screwed everybody over. Like, I think it reminds her of the good old days. Like, hey, remember back in season 1 when we were all running around but Crosshair, he also he tells her, he's like, hey, look, I belong in here because he's had, he's not necessarily, I don't think his heart has turned, but he's like, I don't deserve your friendship. I just want to be left alone.
And he doesn't belong. I mean, his whole life is in shambles now, and
Yes.
his purpose is gone, and he's just a shell of what he used to be. And it's
Yes.
understandable. And
Yeah.
here she comes, not in a cell, mind you,
Yeah.
bopping around.
Sure.
Crosshair, we gotta get out of here. Leave
You
me
know what?
alone.
You learned something about her in this, and but I got touched on in season 2 or something. She is fiercely fiercely loyal. I mean, almost to a fault. I
like
mean, because
blindly,
she's
almost
like what?
like blindly loyal,
Yeah.
almost.
I mean, she's very forgiving. She's looking past all the stuff that Crosshair
Yeah,
did and said, I got your back. I want to get you out of here with
Yep.
me. When I get out of here, you're coming with me.
and that's why he's just like, look, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so, quite a bit of time I think passes because we start to see her hair grows. She's got a ponytail, and I think in one of the subsequent episodes, they mentioned it's like it's been months. It's been months since the end of season 2, and that's how long Omega and Crosshair have been in there. The first episode and the third episode sort of run together for me because those are two that kind of go together.
Yeah.
Well, while you're talking about Omega and how the time's passing, it is hard sometimes because they do with so much action and there's so much intrigue and stuff that they actually do a good job, like pumping the brakes with Omega and reminding you that she is just a kid. She's taking all this time stealing hay and stuff, and she's using it to rebuild the doll that she left on the ship because she's a kid, and
Yeah.
she needs that kind of comfort. And what they steal it,
Right. They take it.
They do a little shakedown for contraband, and they take it, and her
But you know
sister
what?
gets
Yeah,
it back.
she returns it. Yeah.
But she's still a kid, and they do a good job in reminding you that she's not a superhero, that she is just a kid trying to make it through the world.
Well, I think one of my favorite lines in the episodes that we're talking about was Crosshair saying, "You picked a day the Emperor was visiting to try to escape," and she's like, "Well, I guess I'll just have to take his shuttle." And they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
That naivete.
Yeah.
Since those two episodes are sort of running together for me, I guess we can flip over real quick to talk about, like Matt said, the side quest of Wrecker and Hunter. When the episode starts, they go before this crime lord,
Yeah.
played by
Deveronian.
played by Angelica Houston,
Yeah, that was
of all
awesome.
people.
Yeah, that was cool.
I
And
love
somebody
that whole scene was great.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
somebody
that floor.
it's like, hey, just don't stand on that floor, man. I mean, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
They must have not have gotten the
I
memo
guess,
on
but I
that when
mean,
they came in.
the thing is red and humming, and you're standing over a dark pit. I'd be like, hey, I'm going to stand back here on the stones.
Yeah, you're basically standing on a ray shield or something, I guess.
It was
Something.
great. I loved it. I loved how they brought the pike forward and they got the son's horn back
Yeah.
for whatever that's worth. Whatever that's worth. But
Which that is that's an interesting thing about this show, that that's almost like the path not taken for this show. Because when this show came out, I really thought we were going to be getting like the A team in space. And for some episodes, in fairness, that's exactly what we've gotten. We've gotten these side missions or these one-offs where they are for hire. They're doing this stuff. They are wanted by the Empire, still wanted by the government. They survive as soldiers of fortune. There's many great video memes that have been made about the A Team and the Bad Batch, but that's one aspect of this show that and I'm not necessarily sad about it. I think it would have been cool to kind of explore that a little more, but they did they really shifted in season 2 their narrative focus to this story of protecting Omega.
I think ultimately this is much more satisfying.
Well, I think because there's a bigger story going on here, and that's fine. But this episode did remind me just of what was this one-off mission like to go get this pike and get this guy's horn back, and it was probably a whole thing. But it's interesting that we got it. We just got everything we needed right here. Here's your horn back. Hey, we did what you wanted us to do. Now, help us out here. And I thought that was a great way to handle it.
Yeah.
And so they do get some information, and this lady's like, "Okay, beat it. I really don't like you people." Okay. Um, and then they visit this sort of bombed out former Imperial hideout, um, that's on this world that's covered in, monstrous vines. That's
Yeah.
pretty wretched. Hey, don't touch any of these things.
And
And
And what does Wrecker do?
it touches it. What
and
were you
Brian,
saying,
I
Matt?
was talking to Jared about it, and what I liked about this episode and like the setting of it was the bombed out Imperial base.
Yeah.
How it was bombarded from space, because I was saying like this is around the same time frame as Andor, which we saw when he was a kid. His planet had a similar
The
thing
big
happen,
crater.
and this just seems to be the Empire's MO right now. This kind of like time frame is that they're going around and they're taking out a lot of their secret old bases themselves and just kind of cleaning up a little bit.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a nice little bit of continuity.
Yeah.
And one thing about this episode, I really actually felt like it was necessary because if they had gotten information that led to them going to find Omega immediately, well, we would all be complaining about how it was too easy.
Well,
And
that's true.
This
I
is
mean,
kind of nice to have that
Oh no, look,
little
I
side.
joke. We got
Yeah.
we got great dialogue between Hunter and
Oh,
Wrecker. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the time has passed and they're talking about what's going on. It was good. It was necessary. I joke as a side quest, but it was a necessary episode.
Yeah.
You're right.
and it's one of the interesting things about this show that it's been flirting with and talking about for a while now is what happens to the clones, because you see all throughout these episodes clones and stormtroopers are like still are all mixed up.
Yeah.
Like the stormtroopers are wearing like the Ralph McQuarrie proto stormtrooper armor, and then you still got clones who are in the commando armor. But and now we find these three clones who were essentially just left there to fend for themselves. And I think that sort of just kind of tells you where the Empire's head's at as far as, look, we made millions of this person, and now we don't need them anymore, and what's going to happen to them. And so I thought it was interesting that these three like teenage clones had been sort of hanging out and surviving for however long they'd been there.
Yeah, I wonder how many clones got left behind there and died in the orbital bombardment.
Yeah,
You
or
know?
were killed by the Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings Moria
Yeah.
monster.
Right, that thing.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that transition away from the clones. And we always talked about this back in the old days watching the Clone Wars. And to be fair, that's kind of something that, Jared, we would always talk about, saying like, we really hope that we see it, and they never gave it to us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, first off, I didn't realize the Bad Batch had 15 episodes this season. This is a good chunk of a season. I'm hoping it goes straight through and they don't do that mid-season pause.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of episodes to finish this story out, which I would
Yeah.
assume by the time we're done with this, we are going to have the complete answer of what happens with the clones, and it'll
Yeah.
be final.
Because I don't know after this show if this is really the end of the Clone Wars era. I mean, I don't know of any other, spin-offs.
Well,
I mean,
this is the end of George Lucas's story that he built and contributed to in that sense.
in the
Because
Clone Wars.
the
Yeah.
Clone Wars that he kicked off with Filoni built and
Yeah.
put into this plot narrative. So this really is a wrap up of
Mhm.
probably some of the most, DNA Star Wars that we're going to see. I mean, not that there isn't good Star Wars ahead, not that there hasn't been good Star Wars since, but this is true Lucas Star Wars coming to a close.
And it's interesting to me that, I get, especially when starting the new season, when you have a year away from it and then it comes back on, I don't know. I keep thinking it's weird to have nostalgia for the Clone Wars, the days when the Clone Wars were on, and that's all we had, But the fact that this animation is still is still working as well as it does, and actually is some of the best Star Wars still being made. I mean,
Yeah.
that's satisfying to me. It's
Yeah.
like this is really cool. I mean, we've had several live action shows, some of them more successful than others. You know, all of a bunch of them with interesting parts, but I don't know. It's seeing this style of animation and the way the stories are told. It kind of makes me wistful, but it's really cool. And so we're breaking into this base, and this this definitely is this is a video game. This is
Oh yeah.
all right. We've got to get in there and get on. We've got to get the code. We've got to download it while we're being attacked by the octopus thing, and then we've got to get out of here. So I do appreciate that the whole episode is like 22 minutes of just pretty much straight ahead like action adventure. Like Brian said, it does move the needle along to keep that forward motion going.
Yes.
It's not like we're going back to Ord Mantell and meeting with the lady from Cheers, and and you
That's
know,
legit. That's the Clone Wars really got bogged down sometimes in that where
Yeah.
nothing was moving forward.
oh
And
yeah, 100%. And I really think there's an urgency this season because it is the last season to keep their foot on the gas
yeah,
and like waste nothing. Like there can be no, I'll be disappointed if I have to spend an episode with Wanda Sykes teaching the three new clones how to fish or something on the island planet. Which, don't get me wrong,
Never
that
know.
could
That could
happen,
happen.
but because that's apparently where they're headed.
yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. I think they're going to be a little more pointed and directed as to where they put their storytelling efforts this season.
It's funny in that second episode, my wife, she watched the first three with me, and she got such a kick when Wrecker walks out of their ship with that Gonk droid strapped to his
Yeah,
back.
Yeah, that was funny. He's just like, and it's like legs are like
Yeah.
kicking.
I got my power.
Yeah, and Gonky's like bark, bark,
Yeah.
bark, bark, just making his crazy noises
I mean,
and
she
everything.
actually laughed
Yeah,
out
I mean,
loud when she saw that. I thought it was great.
that was good stuff. And they get him out there and they hook him up, and that's just so funny. It's like you think in Star Wars you have to pick up this giant droid with legs to basically be a USB power
Yeah.
Right.
charger. So, but yeah, it's a good bit of just reminding you kind of where you are. It's like, oh, that's a Gonk droid. He has to bring it along for power.
So
So,
those little creepy crawly things in that base, man, those things, those
yeah,
look like infant versions of whatever was in the water, or
It's like,
maybe something else. There's a lot of creepy things.
did you guys
in there.
ever play? When I was in college, I was one of 5 people in the United States that had the Atari Jaguar system. But it had
I think
Alien
I've
versus
heard of it.
it had Alien versus Predator, and
yeah,
that was a great game. The
yes,
system was sketchy, but it was a fantastic game.
yeah. They had that for PC, and I played it.
And one of the most terrifying things in that game were the damn facehuggers. You'd be
Yeah.
walking down a hallway and you'd see one, and then you'd be like, ah, and you'd run and run, and then it would get out of your field of view, and then it's right up on your screen, and it scared the hell out of you. It scared you to death.
It was.
That's what these remind me of. These are like little facehuggers.
Yeah, they're just wandering
Yeah.
around, and
Oh man.
But no, it was cool. It was great visuals. It was very Star Wars, man. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like great stuff. I can deal with these side quests because it's just fun to say it's action adventure, and it's like the best of Star Wars. It's exactly what you would have seen in the first 3 movies. You could put
Mhm.
Han Solo in the same situation and be like, that makes perfect sense.
yeah,
But it was a good episode.
and yeah, and the kids trying to steal their shuttle, and then coming back for them. I thought, well, hey, look, you got a few more recruits now, and it just made me wonder, like, okay, so they're going to take them to the island planet and drop them off, but
Right.
what's gonna, it just got me thinking, like, what's what's the fate of our Bad Batch? But I mean, I'm sure we'll find out what that is. But so anyway, they find out, or they don't find out. They find out the general vicinity of where they need to be. And then we sort of start episode 3. And this was a big one because
Man, his voice just gets better the older he gets.
Yes.
He's finally grown into his voice. He was like in his 30s when he played Palpatine in 83.
He looked like he was 55, but we'll just grant him his 30s.
No,
But
I think he was in his 30s.
I know he was. He just didn't look like he's never looked like he was 30.
Well, the makeup, of course.
But I mean, we're talking about almost 50 years ago he made this, and we're still getting Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah, I know. It's
amazing.
Awesome.
How cool is this? It's amazing that we still have touch points. We still got the same Emperor. It's amazing.
The same guy. And, so that's what's happening. They got a special guest visiting them on Mount Tantus. And Mama Samu Makusa.
Nala say, you know what, by the way, I have to tell you, I was shocked. I was completely expecting that even though this is way before it happened, way before, I was expecting some kind of Yoda or that species reference because, Baby Yoda, they wanted that blood sample so bad.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna do a little connector there that because they didn't have this kind of species, they're looking for elsewhere, but didn't get it.
Well, there might be something to that because if you'll recall in The Mandalorian season 3, when Grogu was taken from the temple,
right?
He was taken by the Jar Jar Jedi, and they boarded a Naboo starship,
right?
And Palpatine is from Naboo, and we don't know what had happened to Grogu in the years from the end of the Clone Wars to where we find him in the Mandalorian.
Right.
So, I didn't know what if Grogu was on this base. And I thought it could have been a distinct possibility. When the little freezer opens and we just see Palpatine looking into it, and we don't see it as the audience what he's seeing, and I think it's obviously done that way on purpose to either just let us go crazy trying to theorize what's in there. But I really don't think a lot of people, I mean, even I joked, it's like that's where he keeps all his Snoke sickles.
Well,
Snoke sickles.
I mean, look, I think we're not done with this base, obviously. One of the things that we'll hear is Omega is, in her head, she's like, well, we have to go back. We have to free all the clones, and we'll get to that. But like, we're not done with this base. There's a lot more to this base. So you might be right. There might be some stuff that we still have yet to discover on it. But
oh yeah. And I think the Emperor definitely will be back in the show before it's over.
Yeah.
But he's in there, and at the same time this is happening, obviously, as we talked about before, Omega has decided to, she has the Kaminoan's iPad, and which gives her unlimited access to everything. Just putting it in a slot. Listen,
whatever.
That's not the most outrageous thing in Star Wars.
I know.
Yeah. I think it's funny how Nala Say encourages her to do that. Just go steal my data pad.
Well, because she knows that
Emery.
I was going to say Mary Sue. Emery. She knows that Emery is going to be testing the blood samples that day.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, you're screwed, kid. You got to get out of here. Yeah. Or she says, you are screwed, kid. Get out of here now. So anyway, and this, we forgot to mention that, of course, Betcha, the Hound, is released. is released to the wild at the end of the first episode by Omega.
Oh yeah, they were going to euthanize it because it was injured, and
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
And anyway, so Batcher's out there running around, which comes back into play later.
Betcha.
But so Omega, she's now running around, and goes to get Crosshair, and she's sort of improvising this jailbreak terribly, and Crosshair is, she's like, distract the guards, and it's funny, and because when Crosshair's talking to that stormtrooper, he's like, "What did you say, clone?" It's very, and I thought that was just a nice little detail because it's like that's probably how the stormtroopers were treating the clones at that point. Like, yeah, get out of my face. And then, those two guys get dispatched pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's when
it's like, it's funny. How are you going to do that? And then the door opens and Crosshair just attacks the dude.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they're sort of wandering around the base, but I will say this is a much more realistic jailbreak than the terrible Obi-Wan episode where he hid Leia under his coat, and they walked out. Like, what am I watching? This Three Stooges version of Star Wars, but
oh man, that's bad.
I think of that like Austin Powers.
It was like Austin Powers.
And they also they've done that in a couple of Muppet movies where the Muppets will just stack themselves and like Kermit's head's way up here. It's so weird. But anyway, so they're running around the base, and they make that funny, Crosshair makes the funny observation about, hey, you could have done this on a different day, maybe. And but I got to say, I loved all the stuff with the Emperor coming in and landing. It felt very Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Everybody's in their formation, honor guard. And we got our first, I don't know if it was the first look, but of a Clone Wars style Imperial Royal Guard.
Yes.
I think this is the first time they've been animated in this style. And they're really cool looking. They come down and there's the Emperor, and Hemlock's like, "Why is them? Yeah, no way." And the Emperor's
it's
like,
"Nice to see you
I
again.
cannot hear you. Speak up, you turd."
I said, "Did you get your lunch order ahead of time?"
Anyway, Palpatine is.
Are you wearing shoes under that robe?
Will you shut up?
No, just walk with me.
Come with me, Emperor.
Is it too much to ask to hold your hand?
Man, I thought the Emperor's animation was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked great. The whole thing
felt right.
Yeah, it was sort of like almost in parts like ghost-like the way his robes moved,
Yeah, very
sort
fluid.
Of, yes.
Yeah.
And so, and Ian McDiarmid, like Matt said, still's got the pipes, still very, very much Emperor Palpatine. And they go and look in the secret lab. Now, I will say at this point in the timeline, I think Palpatine is just concerned with, making sure that maybe a clone of himself can sustain his own M count. And I think that's what they are, because obviously his plan is to live forever through this method of cloning. Everybody bags on the sequels and everything, but I've always said, if you can tell me an interesting story about how he wants to do this, yes. Somehow Palpatine
found a Strandcast donor that could replicate an MCAT with no degradation.
Well, that explains it.
I mean, look, this is a very, like, we're playing ball with the sequel story, right? And we're going to make it work no matter what. And they've taken Darth Plagueis's kind of like what he learned and this is what it is. This is how he's going to live forever.
Yes.
And it's not as magic as the story was told to Anakin. It wasn't as fantastical. There's science here, and he's like, this is how we're going to do it.
Yes.
To M count, non-degradation, and that's how we're going to survive. But it's interesting because Palpatine's very smart. He knows history. He knows the history of two Sith and what happens when two Sith are around each other too long. One kills the other and another one pops up. So he knows that his time is limited. At least, he's going to be threatened at some point. So he's got a good.
I will say this, what you said, Matt, that sequel trilogy or no, what Palpatine is doing is consistent with his character.
Yes.
This is something, even if we didn't know about the sequels or what happens, that we would see this and go, oh yeah, of course he's doing this.
Well, he's a planner. He plans ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's always playing the long game.
It's the long game. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
And so right now, at this point, like I said, I don't think he has a fridge full of Snokes, because I think Snoke is some sort of aberration that came about from these experiments. And, he just decided to use him.
Man, it's almost like they took Nala Se and Palpatine's DNA and put them together.
Yeah, because Snoke's like 10 feet tall or something. He's all weird looking. But I'm interested to see, and I wonder if the show will tell us before it's over, exactly where he's at along this journey to keep himself alive forever. So, but Omega we find, of course, and I think this has created a great ticking clock for the show. Omega's blood showed no degradation when it was cloned in the M count. So obviously now the full resources of the Empire are looking for this kid. And I think that presents, if they can follow through with this for the rest of the season, that's going to be just a fantastic story. They're going to be constantly on the move, on the run.
Right.
And the Emperor says to Hemlock, you will have all the Empire's resources at your command.
Yeah, it's going to get tight.
Resources.
Yes. So, and now,
I will use that.
I will do that, Emperor.
Everyone, don't worry.
Can you buy me some more dog food for the hounds? So anyway, we get, Omega and Crosshair, they have broken out of the facility. They get away through the dog pen. For some reason, Omega hedges all her bets on this crash shuttle that's been out there for months.
Right.
And she doesn't even know where it is. She's like, well, it's out here somewhere. And Crosshair's just like, what are you talking about? What are we doing? So they see the Emperor's shuttle leaving, and they're like, okay, Crosshair's like,
flight path.
Follow the flight path. And so they find it, and the shuttle's, it's all covered in vines and everything. It's been there a while. And her whole plan was to just radio. And like Brian said earlier, they're not making Omega super smart.
Right.
And thinking and planning ahead. She's gets in there and nothing works. And she's like, oh, crap, nothing works. And yeah, no kidding. This thing's been crashed for months. Nothing works in here.
Right.
But they do pivot a little bit once the Empire sends a shuttle full of stormtroopers after them.
And you know what? Hemlock he's just fed up too at this point. He doesn't care if they're brought back dead or alive.
Exactly. Because he doesn't, but he also doesn't know what Emery knows.
Right.
So, they get out there.
Oh, by the way,
go ahead.
There was that what's so great was they had in that episode the blood ticking away, waiting for its time to get into.
It was like a ticking clock.
It was very, very great. It was a great element. And it did have a great, and the music around it, everything about that machine moving the blood closer was really well done. Really well done.
Yeah.
Until her blood clicked in.
Yeah, that was a great element they added. But I got to say, and I do, this is another nerd thing, but I do like these big fat bellied shuttles, like these assault shuttles
Yeah.
they send out. They're different than the sort of the leaner, meaner versions, but you know, you have to take a lift to get up to the pilot's hatch and everything. I love all that stuff. But anyway, the shuttle comes out, and I thought it was kind of hilarious that once Omega gets in there and just stuns the pilot, he just shoots him in the back of the head,
Right.
and then just starts blasting stormtroopers on the ground with the guns on the ship. I was like, man, Omega ain't playing. Those aren't stun blasts. She's killing those guys.
Yeah,
And
what was great right before that though is you had Crosshair and Omega talking about what are we going to do here? Well, do you know what Plan 72 is? Yeah, I know all the plans.
Okay, that's true.
Tech taught them to me, of course. and then it's like on and
yeah,
they
Plan 72, whatever that is.
Steal the ship.
They steal the ship. They get up in it, and the atmospheric TIE fighters are launched from the base and kind of like.
Although Matt, we're skipping over something. I told Brian this too.
What's that?
We knew it would upset you that the dog lived. Just like an Independence Day.
Okay,
and got aboard the ship
again.
And made it on
to
board.
All our listeners, a sticking point with me about dogs is now like this show. I get it. I see why the dog lived, but it went back to the 1995 Independence Day, where the dog in the tunnel, making its jump as the tunnel is basically engulfed in fire, survives. And it irritated me to no end because if the dog died, the viewer would have been so vested in a revenge to avenge this dog. Sure. It would have pushed it forward in a much more mature way. But it sold out and the dog lived. And I never figured that. But I love dogs. I'm not out to see dogs die. But I knew this dog was going to live.
Yeah.
I knew. It was like,
so,
betcha.
It's cool.
He
gets
like
on
the
little
ship.
Rhino dog, though.
Yeah, it is a weird looking little thing.
It's like the thing in Attack of the Clones with the horn.
Like the reek.
Yeah.
The reek, yeah. It's
like a baby reek.
Yeah. It's very good. It's cool. I like them. What the heck?
So anyway, they get away. They jump to light speed.
They get one of their engines though shot up, so they're in trouble.
By the V wings. That's what they call those things. The V wings.
V wings are V wings. I trust are just planetary, right? They're not. No.
V wings are in space. You see V wings at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
flying by the Emperor and Vader's Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
I gotta watch.
I think they're also escorting the Emperor's shuttle too.
Yes, they are. Because he says, dispatch more V-Wings to escort the shuttle. It's at the end of the episode where Hemlock finds out, oh, crap, and they just escaped, and this is exactly what we need.
Now, Llama Pudding, did you lie to me about Omega?
I was with you the whole time.
I think you need to come clean and tell me. What have you been doing with Omega?
And anyway, we see very in short order that she is put into a cell.
Yeah, but she had a good stall tactic. She's like, false positives are to be expected.
Yes.
Yeah. So she puts a little bit of doubt, and it buys her time. So
yes. Well, and that brought us in a cell. That brought us up to the fourth episode, which for me was going to be okay. Now, are they going to keep going? Are they keeping their foot on the gas, or are we going to go with the three clones and hang out with Wanda Sykes?
Well, I think they pounded the gas on this one.
Yes, they did.
And they went to Planet Governor.
I was very, I was very happy to see that.
The planet they wind up like landing on or crashing on out of space, mind you, in a very vicious crash with no one wearing seatbelts, and they both walked out fine. I swear to God, I'm thinking this is like Planet Governor because everyone in the town has, it's all, the Empire has that British accent anyway, but it's a very like proper, posh, kind of like London-esque.
Yes, sir.
But then you got like the governor. Hey, governor, you want to help me?
The Cockney. They call that the Cockney.
It's very Liverpool, very Cockney. They're like, hey, governor.
But
and everyone in the bar, they're like, Yeah, you gonna play me a game? Let's do it.
This whole settlement, this whole spaceport,
Yeah,
it just reeked of classic Star Wars.
that was great.
I mean, you could hear, the sounds, just the atmosphere. I mean, it just everything was just spot on, perfect. And it, like I think I texted Matt when I was watching. I was like, all this scenery, all the sets. This could be an episode of The Mandalorian, live action. The way this looks.
Yeah, it's great.
And so they get into this place, and this tubby governor guy. Well, Omega's plan is to, they're getting shook down for passage onto this shuttle.
Yeah, they're trying to bribe their way on.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, well, you're going to pay us. It's going to be 15 grand a piece or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so, Omega's like, oh, why don't we just, of course, she has this experience from working with Rhea Perlman, and she's hustling those guys in the little gaming rooms.
The Trandoshan.
Yes.
Cleaning them out.
And so she's cleaning this guy out. And then, of course, she gets this Mr. Tubby comes in, and he's like, wow, this is fascinating.
That follows that theme of the kind of the bigger Imperial officers, like an Andor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of feeding into that a little bit.
They're like the Roman governors in their provinces, where they're like, living fat on the hog and draining the local society and taxing them and just
being
degenerates.
These Imperials don't have any clue about the escape from Mount Tantus or anything like that. They're not even, they're not even looking for these people. They just think, oh, hey, look. I mean, they are later once Hemlock shows up, but if you get the feeling that if Omega had just gotten away and paid their ticket, they'd have been out of there free and clear. But that's too easy.
Yep.
So the Empire does show up in force, and she steals this gigantic starship.
Yeah.
This freighter, and I was just watching this like, what is going on here?
Yeah, but go back. The reason they ended up in that place is because that Imperial officer took her dog.
Well, that's true.
And
that's true.
And that's how they ended up over there. And then they release all the animals and chaos ensues.
Yes, that was pretty funny.
It was like the Jurassic Park. The things running and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I think
wild.
that was a Rathtar in that one big cage.
Grabbed them?
That reached out and grabbed that guy.
And pulled him back in.
Was that what was in Solo's?
Yes.
That's what Force Awakens.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. So hunting Rathars. You hunt Rathars? Well, we used to have a bigger crew. So, this, while it wasn't, of course, steeped in, the Emperor's plans or anything like that, it did keep its foot on the gas and keep things going. And, but, ultimately it was another good, like, adventure episode.
Yeah. Well, I loved that at the end when they did meet up. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Which you didn't give any spoiler alert in the beginning. So,
oh crap!
This far in,
I'm done.
Out of luck.
It's over.
But
no spoiler alert.
I loved the approach of the cargo freighter in the distance, approaching the moon. With the big red planet behind it.
Yes.
I love that shot of it just being way in the distance and just moving in. Great music, good build. We see Hunter and Wrecker ship. It was.
Yes.
The ship doesn't have a name, does it?
No, it should though. I mean, I think it's a great ship. I like it. I mean, I think it's really kind of mean looking and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And Brian, they haven't. Hasbro Pulse hasn't announced their intention to make one, have they?
No, they have not.
It's a good ship.
But once
5 years
they do,
from now, they might.
Yeah.
But we finally, after 4 episodes, reconnect the team.
Yes,
it's a nice reunion, and it's capped off by Crosshair emerging from the ship and having quite a tense cliffhanger there.
Dead
Yeah.
silence. Yes, and I watched that with my wife, and I was like, I looked over. He's like, so when Omega's hugging Hunter and Wrecker, I was like, oh yeah, come on, you can do it. I know you want to cry. I know you want to cry. You're gonna do it. And I looked over, and she's like, it's like, okay, good.
That was an emotional scene.
No, it was. I think it was very well done. And
Yeah.
I keep wondering. Keep forgetting that. Like I was like, where's Echo at? But Echo went off with Rex at the end of last season. But I mean, we'll probably see him again, I'm sure. But and then Tech obviously is dead. So far, I'm really amazed that he seems to have stayed dead.
Yeah. Well, that's something, and at this point, we're done with the 4 episodes. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, where this show's going to go, what we think is going to happen this season. And we'll see if we're right.
Predictions.
Go for it.
Brian,
what do you think?
I think we're going to lose one more clone, at least one, probably 2. I think one of them will survive. I would say that probably Wrecker will survive just because he's so freaking huge. But I think that Crosshair will get it. I think Hunter will get it because Hunter will sacrifice himself. And then I think the Emperor at the end is going to get what he wants.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Okay. Jared, what do you think?
I agree with Brian, although if they want to put a pin in this, I think you have to kill them all.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if they want to leave any threads. I don't think they kill Omega, but I don't know where that, I'm the only thing I can
to kill her.
Yes. The only thing I think of, I think we will lose Crosshair, Hunter, and Wrecker. I think Rex. Well, we know Rex lives because he's in Rebels. That's as far as I'm going to go, and I think we're going to see more about the Emperor's plan. We'll know much more about it.
So I think
before the end of the season.
I think you both are right. I think they're all going to die. I don't think anyone can leave this season alive. But I think that I think the base is going to be the key thing in this. I think they're going to go back to the base. I think they're going to try and free the clones. And I think the nefarious plan will be revealed. And I have a feeling Omega will probably wind up sacrificing herself to cause this base to, to destroy, to be destroyed.
Destruct.
So that way she's not killed. I mean, she's not murdered, I should say, but she sacrifices herself and she removes herself from the equation. And then I can totally see the end where the Emperor's like, this setback, is just a setback. We will find another source. And then you got Grogu somewhere.
And then Grogu. Yeah. You see like Grogu from behind the little ears.
So I think that's how you'll probably end it. Cause you got to wrap it up. There's a lot of things that have to happen in this season. You have to have kind of like a final story. You have to close the arc on the clones. The Bad Batch can't keep running around like this because they're wanted by the entire Empire. Mm-hmm. And Omega is public enemy number 1 now. So it's no way they're going to survive. And they shouldn't survive. They should have a good end. Yeah. And I think I don't know how, but I think that's my prediction. Omega somehow sacrifices herself. Hunter and Wrecker will assist her in getting done whatever has to get done. And they, in turn, will, not survive. And then it's going to come down to Omega. Now, question, are we going to see Vader in this season?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah, and we already know from the trailer we get Asajj Ventress.
Right.
That's true.
So that could be the counter to that.
Can we have Asajj running around like a lunatic, knowing she's alive? I mean, there seems to be quite a bit of Jedi that escaped the
that's interesting.
The purge, but maybe Asajj and Vader square off.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's how you dispatch her, which would be a great way to get rid of her.
And you might end up getting an Inquisitor or something like that too.
So, I mean, all these things are possibilities. We've been teasing the trailer. I mean, I'm hopeful that we see Vader. I'm looking forward to how Asajj is reintroduced into this series. Because I forget, how does she?
She doesn't in the show. She just doesn't come back. They had a fate planned for her where she dies, which was never filmed. That was put into a book, but it was never on screen. So,
The character just kind of disappeared from the writing.
yeah, she just didn't pop back up in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, I think they're holding Vader back. They're not going to reveal that in marketing or anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And I think we might hear from a young Boba Fett. It's possible
cool.
because
you think the two of them are going to meet up?
He'd want to know. I mean, Omega's his sister, basically.
Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if Boba does show up and saves his sister?
It's possible. So we'll see. I think all that's on the table. Sure, certainly. We don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we need some Cad Bane action in there too.
He's in it.
He's in it. Yeah, that's right. He's in the trailer, isn't he?
Yeah. So I mean, we got some Cad Bane coming. So that's awesome.
There's a lot of good Star Wars coming up.
So, and our plan here is to maybe crank out 3 of these. Although I think we've agreed if something monumental, if we do get a Vader appearance, maybe we'll jump on and do a bonus episode or something. But we're going to do a halftime report, and then we'll do, of course, a post-mortem, probably literally in the case of Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair. But we want you to continue to come with us on this journey and to continue to enjoy the Bad Batch as we are doing, as we clone it in here on a regular basis. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to see Brian again very soon in some of our Cloning It In, Just the Good Ones episodes here coming up soon. So, if you like Star Wars, tell your friends to subscribe to the Hyperspace. And with that said, gents, we will see you next time.
You betcha.
Tick.
Tick.
No. Omega's not force sensitive. Why are they doing that?
Oh.
Excuse me.
You gotta leave that in.
That'll be edited. You can't live without this content, so subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.